with another video, and today is a much requested video, and that is on my personal mobility stretching routine. So today we're going to cover the full body stretching routine that I've used since I started caring about mobility about 2 years ago. I started off, I couldn't even touch my toes. I started stretching in a very primitive way, and then it evolved, and I eventually created my own personal full body stretching routine, which is extremely similar when it was created a year ago as it is today, although today involves some more yoga poses. I used to do this every night pretty much, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I did this for about a year and improved my mobility no end. And then from there I started doing some loaded mobility. If you want to find out more about loaded mobility, then check out Emmett Lewis. I'll put a link in the description down below. He is an Irish mobility coach, and I'm not going to explain to you loaded mobility because he does a hell of a better job than I do. He knows a lot more than I do because I learned from him. He has just so much good information on his YouTube channel, and that's personally what I've been using now. I only do the stretching routine maybe like twice a week, mainly to relax, and it takes a lot less to maintain my flexibility than it did to gain it. And I now incorporate a lot of loaded mobility work, and also I do exercises that test my mobility when I train, so I'm kind of continually training my mobility now rather than just stretching. So as I said, Emmett Lewis in the description down below. I'd also like to mention Ardor, which is the t-shirt that I'm wearing. It seems very fitting for today's video because they are the new name, as they put it, in strength and mobility. They're going to be a sponsor of the Project Planche series, which is starting next week, and I really do like their apparel. They're quite a small company from Northern Ireland, and they are basically into the whole holistic approach to training, everything about movement, from yoga and strength training and Olympic lifting. They care about strength and mobility, which is very much what I believe in as well. So, you know where I've come from, you know why I'm wearing this awesome t-shirt. One last thing before we get into the video, and that is foam rolling. I would highly recommend this if you're interested in improving your mobility and flexibility. Get yourself a nice knobbly foam roller and a couple of lacrosse balls and just go hard. I'm not going to go into this because it is very individual. You're essentially massaging yourself. There are techniques you can do. I'm not going to cover this because it's been covered in loads of videos over the internet. So go check out, just search kind of how to foam roll. But I would highly recommend it, and it's very useful. I do this probably 4 times a week. It literally takes like 10 minutes before I go to bed. If you are interested in taking your mobility seriously, definitely invest in a foam roller and maybe some lacrosse balls as well. So guys, enough of me rambling on. I'm going to now show you my full routine. I'm basically just going to video the whole thing. I'm going to speed it up a bit, and I'll talk you through why I do each pose. You want to hold every single stretch for a minimum of 30 seconds. If it feels particularly tight, so one side feels tighter than the other, hold that side longer until it kind of feels appropriate. You're going to have to judge this one for yourself, but you definitely want to hold it for a minimum of 30 seconds. Studies have shown that you don't really get the benefit unless you hold it for that length of time. So that is basically the rule for every single stretch. We're also going to be working from, as I said before, hopefully head to toe. So we're going to be starting with the neck and then eventually go into lower body. You will need a wall for this, and that is it. So hopefully you guys have a wall. I'm also going to be using a yoga mat, and that's because I don't want to slip about everywhere, but you don't need that at all. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Right guys, so starting it all off, starting from the head, we're going to go this upper trapezius and side neck stretch. Put your arm behind your back, reach over and lean the head away from that shoulder, and then gently pull your neck, and you should feel a nice stretch down your neck, trap, and maybe shoulder as well. We're then going to follow this up with a very similar stretch, and that is the behind the back shoulder and tricep stretch. You can use a rope like I'm demonstrating now if you can't touch your hands together, but if you can, just go ahead and reach behind your back, grab your hands together and pull in both directions slightly, and you should get a stretch on the tricep and shoulder. Then we're going to go now for a wall lat stretch. You can do this with a close shoulder or wide stance. Make sure you tuck your hips and don't excessively arch your lower back. Next we're going to be moving on to the wall pec stretch. Now this one's also going to do your bicep. You just want to put your hand against the wall and turn your chest away, and then also push your hand into the wall, so you're kind of actively stretching that bicep and pec. This is probably my favourite upper body stretch as well. Next we're going to go on to the horizontal deltoid stretch. Now this is great if you do a lot of planche or a lot of front levers, as the rear delt and the lateral delt can get quite sore. So you just want to pull your arm to the side, and you can hold it either at the elbow or the wrist to feel a stretch in your shoulder. Then we're going to move on to the wrist, as this can be quite impacted when you're doing bodyweight training like handstands. We're going to do 2 wrist flexor stretches, and that is what you're seeing now, and then turning our wrists out 180 degrees so you stretch the other side. We're then going to flip our hands over and do some wrist extensor stretching, and this is going to go all up the forearms and hopefully a little bit into the biceps as well.
Right guys, so now we've kind of done the upper body. This is the bit that's not so flowing. We've opened up the shoulders above, we've opened them up on the pec and the bicep, we've done our tricep and also our hyperextension with our shoulders, and then we've also done our lateral head and rear delt with that, as well as our wrists. So our upper body's kind of nice and stretched out at this point. We're now going to go on to the yoga flow, which is when we're going to work the lower body, hamstrings, hip flexors and hips quite hard, as well as a little bit of calves. I'm going to leave you there, and I'm just going to commentate over the top. Hopefully you guys can see everything.
So now we're moving on to the lower body, and we're going to kick things off with this nice hamstring stretch called a forward bend. Just chill out here, it doesn't matter if you can't reach your toes just yet. I couldn't when I started, but just make sure you have a nice stretch up the hamstring. We're going to start off gentle, so you don't want to go too aggressive with this one, just be nice and relaxed. We're then going to walk on down into downward facing dog. If you guys can't do this progression, then just put a chair in front of you or do it against a wall and put your hands about a foot or 2 higher, and it makes the stretch a little bit more gentle. Then we're going to go on down into upward facing dog, and this is essentially an incredible stretch for the entire front of your body. You want to push your hips into the ground and push your shoulders up and away with your arms, and you'll get a great stretch over your hip flexors and abs. Then you're going to rock on back into child pose. This is probably the nicest and most relaxing pose. It just really decompresses your spine. Stay here for like 1 or 2 minutes if you really want to. We're then going to move into the cat stretch. Now this is great for mobilizing the mid-back. You want to go up and push all the way out as far as you can, really spread your traps, and then all the way down and really arch your back. It's just great for mobilizing that back, something which we don't do very often. Then back briefly into downward dog, and then into a low lunge pose. Now this is basically the main stretch for the hip flexor. If you sit a lot, you're going to have tight hip flexors, so I would definitely recommend spending a bit of time in this stretch. If you put your arm over your head, it's going to make it significantly more intense, and you'll get a nice stretch up the whole front of your body, not just in your hip flexor. We're then going to pick our back leg up and go into a quadricep low lunge pose. This is quite an intense stretch, and you get basically a really good stretch on the quad as well as the hip flexor. If you can't do this and you might get a cramping hamstring or something, which is quite common, you can use a chair just to support your leg instead. We're then going to drop our foot across and go into pigeon pose. Now this pose is great for the glutes. It's a really nice pose, although it can be quite intense. So if you're not that flexible, then you can use this progression, which is a 90-90 stretch, and just lean over the front foot. It's going to give you the same result. After that, we're going to move on into a crossed-legged sit. I'm doing half lotus here, but you can just cross your legs normally. And then we're just going to bend forward, again getting a really nice stretch in the glutes. definitely worth doing if you sit a lot. So from this position we can move our leg across and go into a seated twist pose. You can also have your leg extended as well if you find it less intense. I always get a load of cracking in my back when I do this pose, so it's really nice for relieving tension. After that we're going to roll backwards and go into the lying knee pull, and you essentially want to pull whatever knee you're pulling into your opposite shoulder, and you should get again a nice stretch up your glute. We're then going to push that knee away and using the other knee to support the ankle, and you should get a nice stretch in your hip flexor from this point. After that, come on up and go into a seated forward bend. Doesn't matter again if you can't touch your toes, guys, you just want to make sure you get a nice stretch up your back and your hamstrings. Go as deep as possible with this, but again, don't strain yourself too much. This is supposed to be a gentle stretching routine. And then come on up into a kneeling toe stretch, and this is just great for just maintaining foot health and just really moving everything out. We're then essentially going to repeat the routine on the opposite side, exactly the same. So if you go into the description down below, there will be a graphic link to this routine that you can just download and put on your phone, and then you can have that in front of you as you do this routine, and you can just follow it along nice and simply. So don't worry if you can't keep up with this because it is sped up. Just download the file in the description and then you can do it wherever, whenever. So after we've done that, I come up into a squat and we're going to go into some open hip stretching. So we're going to start with the straddle side bend. Now this may be quite tight on a lot of people, but you will get the most incredible kind of like whole side lat stretch all the way down into your hip with this stretch. This is probably for me where I get the tightest for some reason, so I really like to spend a good bit of time in this stretch. I might do it 2 or 3 times just to make sure I'm really loose. I find that helps fix a lot of hip pain if you get hip pain when squatting. We're then going to do some pancake stretching. I quite like to do these kind of like pancake wipers where you basically work from foot to foot until you get nice and low, and then just spend some time in that stretch. You should feel it on the inside of the hamstrings as I was demonstrating.
So I like to finish up in a squat and just kind of sit and move about. This is actually primarily like a resting position, so you should feel comfortable just sitting ass to grass in a squat. So I like to do that just for like the last sort of couple of minutes at the end, just kind of loosen everything off. Hopefully everything should have been stretched. If you guys can't do some of these stretches, then there should have been some progressions that I did demonstrate as I went through this routine. I think this actually only took me about 15, maybe 20 minutes to do in real time. So if you have any questions, post them in the comment section down below. I'll always try to get back to you. In the description will be a full list in order of what stretches I did. So if you aren't sure on how to do them, you can just go away and Google that particular stretch and find out how you're supposed to do it if I didn't cover it sufficiently. But if you enjoyed this video, please hit a thumbs up, and I will see you next week to start Project Lunge. Exciting.